First up I'll do the rewind knob, I think, rewind shaft. There's a small screw that couples this all together. There it is. So apply a little bit of synthetic grease to the inner part of the rewind shaft. Slide that in from the top, lining up the groove with the screw hole. I can see the screw hole. Take the screw, it's got a shaped, specially shaped screw that runs in that slot. Tighten that up, check that that moves smoothly. I'll just put the rewind knob briefly on the end of that, something to hang on to it. There should be very slight resistance in that. There's a bit of spring tension to hold the rewind shaft from flopping about too much, but that's all it is, a little bit of pre-tension on that shaft. Here's the bush, the mounting bush at the top. I'm just running a bit of synthetic grease through that. Make sure I've got it the right way up. That's good. Let's release the tension on it slightly so I can get the shaft in. There we go, that's great. That sits on the body just like that. And is held in place with 3 screws. Now for the filament parts. Apply a little bit of grease to this boss in the centre and the spring there. Fit the take-up spool into place. The slotted hole goes to the top, round hole to the base. Otherwise you won't get it to couple. That looks good. Here's the shaft. I think I will lubricate this with a little bit of graphite grease. I'll just run some into the bush. The shaft in place, drop that into the body and couple the shaft with the slot and the take-up spool. Here we go. Like the rewind end, this is held in place with 3 screws, which are just the same size and shape. As usual, fit all the screws in place, then tighten the screws. That's good. That's our advanced shaft sorted out. Now we can start assembling the other stuff. I'll start with the springs. Now, pop this somewhere where you can see the difference. There are two springs that look a little bit similar, but they're not. This one does the shutter release. This one does the rewind lever. You can see that they're a different shape. See, the loop is on this side, and the loop on this side over here, and on this side over here. So they're easy to mix up. Don't mix them up. You won't like it. This one to the front for the shutter release. This one to the rear for the rewind lever, or the ratchet that the rewind lever lifts out of engagement. We have a ratchet wheel that just drops on. Don't get that spring caught underneath it. Now you can start stacking up the components for the control levers. First, the washer with the small hole goes on there. Then the ratchet for the rewind goes there. I've already managed to move that washer out of the way. Then the washer with the larger hole goes on top of that. Then this arm, which goes around in this direction, then this arm, which sits on top of it right there, and the fixing screw, which goes through the lot and holds it all in place on the top of the casting. Sometimes it's a bit of a job joggling everything into place. That looks good. Nip that screw up. Our spring at the back here needs to be lifted out and goes behind this lever. Let's see if we can do that. That's it. So that lever is now on that ratchet. Our gear here, this has got a cam on it that locks the film advance once enough film is moved through the gate. It's worth noting that because of the way the film advance works on these early retinas, they're prone to uneven spacing of the film frames. Don't lose a lot of sleep over it, you're not going to fix it. It's just a feature of the way these things work. That's good, just checking that runs smoothly. You can see that couples with the film sprocket shaft. Our shutter release shaft. I want to apply a bit of molybdenum paste to the inside there so it runs smoothly. Some through the hole at the top here because that runs over a post at this point. Our spring needs to be hooked underneath. I'll zoom you in a bit. Come on camera, focus. It's better. Our spring needs to be hooked under this. There's a pin on the bottom of this post. The spring needs to be hooked underneath there. It is always awkward, but like most things, awkward but not impossible. That's it. And our shutter release shaft can drop down that hole. I'll just wipe a bit of molybdenum down that guide pin hole there. I'm just going to get this running on the post down in the struts and over that post there, so that's good. That's in place. Now I'm just going to put a bit of molybdenum paste on the back of that shaft. And the film advance is, I'm just rolling the film sprocket now. As I roll the film sprocket, the cam here revolves, allows this lever to drop into it, which is then pulled back out of the way, and the shutter button can be depressed. And as soon as you allow that back up, you're ready to wind on again. So that film advance is basically together. We have our rewind lever, goes on the top. And this bush goes down on top of that. That's good. I'm going to lock that in place by holding the shaft from the inside to stop it turning with the spanner. That's better. Tighten this up. It's left hand thread. That's all working correctly. So what stage are we at now? For the body, the next thing I want to do is fit the rangefinder. Alright, let's put this rangefinder back on the body. Just put a tiny smear of molybdenum paste on the lever there where it contacts the post on the arm that is coupled to the inner helical. I'm just going to put a couple of spots of lacquer on the top plate. So that once the rangefinder is screwed down, there's no danger of it shifting. If the camera receives a bump, which is almost inevitable these days, then the rangefinder can move on the top housing and then it's no longer accurate. So I've got to drop my screws down into position. Run that up tight, or nearly tight. I've got to get the second screw in yet. I'm holding that rangefinder back towards the back of the camera so that the screw heads are, well, they'll be at the front of the holes they're sitting in the rangefinder, just so that it's nice and square and nice and secure. And now all I have to do is check that I've got the adjustment correct. That's not bad. It certainly comes back to the infinity point too quickly, so I'm just going to adjust that. But I might leave that until actually after I've checked the focus on the lens, because we don't know that the focus is correct, because it's unclear if I've managed to find the appropriate spot to fit the focus scale ring. At this stage, what have we got? If we're going to be continuing closing up the camera top, oh dear, look, I've done something wrong. I've put that rangefinder on before I put this shield in place. I have to undo that. Too used to doing Retina II's because they don't have a shield like that there, so if they don't have one, you don't have to put one back. That sits on there like that. The frame counter wheel, frame counter settings wheel, fits on here. And its spring this round the right way. Sits on there and is hooked over that post there. That's good. Now pop the rangefinder back on. Right. Now, if we were closing up the top of the camera, which we'll do for the moment, I need to fit my frame counter in the top cover. Of course, we haven't got the shutter installed yet, but that's probably going to be coming and going as we check the focus anyway. Right, so with that in the cocked position, I can hold down the shutter release, get my rewind lever through the slot in the back, and there we go, we have it. It even worked, first time too. Okay, so that's the top cover in place. I'll put my advance knob loosely in place. That's good. And screws either end of the top cover to hold it in position. That's good. That's good. That's all working correctly. Right, next thing on this thing is putting the shutter and lens assembly back on the camera so I can check the focus, then adjust the rangefinder, and done. All done and dusted. Lens correctly focused. There were 4 shims at the back of the shutter assembly of various thicknesses. Removing the appropriate shim brought all the focus correctly into position. I've adjusted the rangefinder. So the camera now has the rewind knob reinstalled, advanced knob, top on the shutter release back in place. The leather I've given a little bit of polish to clean it up, and it's a good working camera now and ready to go back to its owner. A bit of an improvement. Thanks for watching.